guys, this is Rick coming at you with Weed to No Basis, the podcast for all things cannabis business related. Are you an entrepreneur? Have something you wanted to create, something you wanted to bring to life in the cannabis industry? Maybe you've always wanted to partake in one of the biggest industries in modern day history. This is the podcast to listen to. Hey guys, this is Rick and we're coming at you with Weed to No Basis. And remember, if you're watching or listening to this media channel, whether it's YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, or wherever it is, remember, you too have a Weed to No Basis. Today we're going to talk about, we call it the Reno Recap. And what that means is simply this. So I have the privilege and the opportunity to speak at cannabis conferences, conventions all over the country. From Brooklyn to Santa Barbara. Actually, Santa Barbara was a very traditional entrepreneurial marketing. It was one of the top 10 marketing conferences. But from LA, Santa Barbara, Brooklyn, to Indiana, which was about a month ago, to Reno. I was in Reno, spoke at the Reno Cannabis Convention. Though I'm looking at my computer for my calendar, the weekend of April 5th and 6th and 7th. So it was a weekend conference. And some of the unique things about the Reno Cannabis Convention, guys, is that it's in a place where one might not expect it. And here's what I mean by that, because it's not Vegas. It's not LA, it's not Seattle, it's not Boston, or even, say, Tampa or Orlando. It's in Reno. And Reno, they actually bill themselves, there's the Reno Arch. It says the biggest, smallest city in the world. And kind of like a play of what San Antonio does. And here's the thing, is that Reno is a big, small town. It's only a few 100,000. And I'm gonna digress a second here, but so I live in San Antonio. San Antonio is about 1.5 million, give or take. And I think it's a tragedy that we call ourselves a big, small city. That's Reno. But here, guys, here's the beauty of that, is I was in Reno. It's my second time speaking there. And the conference, I'm going to share this, guys. This is the recap. The quality of the people there, and this is coming straight from me because I've been there twice now, at the first annual and the second annual. The quality has shifted. It was a lot less stoner feel, and take that for what it means. But what it means to me as a business owner, operator in the cannabis industry, and somebody who runs one of the top 10 incubators for cannabis entrepreneurs in the country, that was a big telling message, because the industry is maturing, meaning there's more suits coming into the industry, and that's a good thing, guys. There's more legitimacy, and not only did I see it and sense it, but the conversations were at a much higher level. Specifically, one of the panels I sat on, I got to talk about was, well, one of them was veterans in cannabis, and that one was, talk about that in a different episode, but the other one was how to start a cannabis ancillary business. And while I won't go into all of the details and minutia, I just got to tell you, there was a bigger crowd than I expected. And another telltale sign. First telltale sign was the quality of the people has elevated. And don't take that out of context, guys, okay? I'm speaking purely as an entrepreneur in the industry who's concerned with growth and scale and opportunity. Less stoner, more pros. Second big thing was the talk that I gave about starting a cannabis ancillary business. The crowds are bigger. Indiana was a big deal. That was last month because the crowd was actually pretty big. And in Reno, same thing. There's more and more people interested in the business of cannabis. Generally speaking, people think of the industry as growing weed or selling weed, period. And that's a generalization, I get it. But guys, the massiveness and the untapped potential of the ancillary side is, well, it's massive and untapped. And that's the beauty of what's happening. Here's the analogy I like to use. And I'll use this, you'll hear me say it over and over because it's very, very relevant. Remember the gold rush from history books of the 1800s? People rushed out to California through the Donner Pass and all that, and they would pan for gold, hoping to strike it rich and find the big, huge nuggets and find their fortune. That's what's happening today. Obviously not gold, it's surrounded the cannabis plant. But here's the relevance of what I mean by ancillary business. You see, because it wasn't always about the gold. In fact, I would challenge any one of you who's watching or listening to this show to name off the top of your head a famous gold digger from that era. You're probably gonna have a really, really hard time thinking of somebody. But let me put this to you, let me pose this to you. I bet that in your garage, or in the garage where you grew up in, there was a pick, an axe, or a shovel. I bet as you're listening to this, or somewhere in your closet, you have a pair of Levi's. That's what I mean by ancillary business. And that is heretofore an untapped, massive opportunity in the cannabis industry. Think about that for a second, guys. That was, it's a takeaway I've had in the past, but it's becoming more apparent as the talks that we give at national conventions that focus on ancillary business, the crowds are growing. No pun intended, but it's hard to avoid those puns when you're in the weed industry. But seriously, guys, other big takeaways. I met some fantastic people. But before I tell you about those fantastic people, let me share this with you. I don't go, and I'm gonna challenge you to do the same thing. I don't go to a conference just for the sake of going to a conference. Just like running a business, we set goals and metrics and KPIs around a specific conference. You can take that to the bank. So here's what I mean by that. Before, like when we knew we were gonna go to Reno, when Weed to No Basis and Green Seed Cannabis Co., which is us, when we knew we were going to Reno, we made plans, obviously travel plans, and I visited my mom, but more so, guys, is we're in the business of growth. If you're not growing, you're dying, period. If you're not growing, you're dying. So that being said, you should absolutely have a metric or a KPI or a goal around everything you do in your business. There should be no haphazard steps. So what does that mean going to a conference? And take this, guys, steal these tips, use these tips. That's why we're here. I set goals and metrics, and I kept them pretty simple. One was to deliver a knockout talk, just a talk that would knock people's socks off and leave them wanting more, because that's what we do. If I didn't hit that goal, then it would not have been a success. And I'm gonna tell you how we measured that. Second big thing is I wanted to meet 4 to 5 outstanding startup cannabis entrepreneurs who had some really, really cool business and get them to be a podcast episode guest. The last thing was I wanted to simply make 5 brand new connections. People who either I could help or that they could help me or vice versa. In other words, people that had good energy and there was gonna be good synergy between our businesses. 3 goals, we hit them all. In fact, you're going to be seeing as Weed to No Basis rolls out, you're going to be seeing the episode of the fighter pilot. And true story, guys. Air Force Academy grad he graduated from the Air Force Academy about 2 decades ago and was a legitimate F-16 fighter pilot. After 14 years, and I'm not going to spill the beans because it's going to be a fantastic episode, he exited military service to launch a series of grow operations and dispensaries in the state of Nevada. And so I met Shane there, and super cool. But again, hit those goals. But guys, the other thing is write those things down. So another Reno recap, guys, when you go to these conventions, yes, you want to have fun, but you also want to do it with intent, with purpose, something that's going to move your business forward. And yes, have fun. Another big takeaway, guys, is the after parties. Now, I know some people, I do know people who at the end of the conference day, when the vendors put the sheets over their wares and they lock the doors and say, see you guys tomorrow, some people like to take off and go grab dinner or go hang out with folks, and I get that. Guys, where I have found the biggest value, the most impactful value, is the after parties. And here's why. Because generally speaking, the who's who of the conference is there. I mean, they're there. And I'm going to tell you, as a speaker, I make it an intent. It's one of my intentions to go to the after parties, because if you're a speaker and people are there to see you, they're there to see you. They're there to see you. You see where I'm going with that? In other words, after the talk, there's generally speaking, guys, 5, 6, 7 people waiting to talk to me. Kid you not. Imagine if we met at the party. We have 20 minutes, unfiltered, one-on-one time. And when you lube it up with a little bit of beer or a vodka soda, guys, that's just the truth. Conversations flow much easier. You make connections. You make connections with people that could elevate your business. Or you connect with people where you can help elevate their business. But everybody was there. They had a DJ. Reno Cannabis Convention did it right. A private event. They had some nosh, some food out there, and it was just a fantastic event. So sometimes it pays in spades to go to the conferences that not everybody is going to yet. See, MJ BizCon is going to be coming up in November again, or in the fall, and it's going to be massive. And the potential to get lost in the wave or the crush of people is legitimate. It's there. And that's why one of my biggest takeaways, as we talk about the Reno Recap, guys, is to find those conferences that are emerging. Find the ones that are emerging, the ones that, again, I say this with love and respect because the fellows who launched the Reno Cannabis Convention are good friends of mine, Tony and Cole. Tony now runs the whole show, but Tony and Cole started it last year, and they're good friends of mine. I say this with love and respect, guys, but find the conferences, the ones that are emerging. I'm going to throw a little hint to you guys. We may be doing one in San Antonio this fall of 2019. This is an emerging market. That's the Reno Recap, what happened in Reno, guys. And whether or not you were in Reno or you plan on going next year or you're listening to this 6 months from the day we're recording this, you can take what we shared with you and extrapolate that, overlay it onto any conference, set goals and metrics around the conference. Figure out why you want to go, who you want to go, and let me back up 1 second real quick. So if you're thinking to yourself, okay, so how do you figure all that out, Rick? How do you figure all that out? Guys, generally speaking, it's right at your fingertips. And here's what I mean by that. If you were to go to the Reno Cannabis Convention website or MJ BizCon or pick any cannabis convention website, here's what they're going to show you. A list of all the vendors who are going to be there. They're going to have a list of all the vendors who are going to be there. They're going to have a sponsor page with the platinum sponsors, the gold sponsors, the silver sponsors. That all matters, guys. That means those companies have invested something to be there to make a mark. Make sense? You're also going to see, get this, the speaker lineup. You're going to see the speaker lineup months before the conference or convention actually goes down. Here's what I do. I literally will reach out. I'll go to those companies' websites. I'll read about them. I'll say, that's a cool company. I want to get to know their founders. You go to their About page. You look at their founders. You go to LinkedIn. You send them a very nice, non-spammy, just genuine human message, and you connect months before the conference. Do that with the speakers as well, guys. When you see their bio or their picture on the website, and sometimes they'll even have links to their LinkedIn profile or Facebook page, click it, get to know them. That's what this is all about, guys, connection. That's what Weed to Know Basis is about, is bridging those gaps and connecting. So it's not rocket science, guys. I told you when we first started this show, way back in the day, we were going to make the impossible possible. We are going to make the complicated simple and design it and share it in a way like we're doing today that my grandma and an 8-year-old could understand. So guys, take this to the bank. What I just shared with you is I do that at every single conference, and I'm not much different than you. Maybe I have a little more drive, maybe not. Maybe we have a little bit more hustle, maybe not. Guys, we just take the simple things and we master them, and we do it over and over and over. Reno Recap, guys, Freudian slip. Reno Recap. I'm glad you all tuned in. And remember, if you're watching this, then you too have a Weed to Know basis. But before we sign off, I gotta tell you guys one more thing. We're crushing it on YouTube. We're crushing it on iTunes. I'd like you guys to go over there. This is a totally free show, totally free. The only thing I ask, the only fee, if you will, is that you go to our YouTube page, Weed to Know Basis, and subscribe and leave us a fantastic comment and one of those thumbs up. We're here to change the entrepreneurial cannabis landscape. Thank you, guys. Remember, if you're here, it's because you have a Weed to Know basis. This is Rick signing off. See you guys next time. Peace. And that's how we film an episode.